Hey, it's Jim again, coming from the Moose Basin Tackle Shop, part of the Moose Basin Bed and Breakfast here in Kapuskasing. And one of the things that we do in the tackle shop here is we rent out equipment, and one of the more popular pieces of equipment that we rent out are front-facing sonar units. We have a variety of them on our boats, and one of the questions we get a lot of, especially from some of our renters are tournament. I'll clarify, some of our renters are tournament guys that are looking for an extra unit on their boat, or they're taking a new fishing partner into the tournament and they want another unit for them to use from the back of the boat, or they're dedicated anglers that just don't use front-facing sonar that much, but they're going to a new lake and they want to make the most of their trip, like they're paying for a fishing vacation and they want to make the most of that. And then there's some, and this is where I get the most questions from, are the people that haven't used it. They're considering buying it, but they don't know that much about it, so they're wondering if it's worth it for them to spend the money on getting one. And obviously, I encourage them to follow through and rent one first, because there's nothing I can say in this video that is going to make more of a difference in your opinion than you actually using it hands-on yourself and seeing what it can do for yourself. There's absolutely no duplicate for that, but what I'm hoping to do in this video is give you my experience with using the technology, seeing other people use the technology, and understanding the cost of it all, trying to put it into perspective on whether or not the variety of fishing you do warrants the purchase of a front-facing sonar unit. And kind of going to try and end up summing it up in the perspective of the beginner angler, the kind of recreational weekend warrior, the dedicated angler, the guide or someone thinking about being a guide, and the tournament guy, or someone more likely the guys and girls thinking about entering tournaments and trying to compete in tournaments, because most of the people already in tournaments already have them on and they get it. Spoiler, that's one of the group of people where, yeah, you want a front-facing sonar unit. But I'm not going to get into different brands or the differences between them or any recommendations like that. This is just my experience on what they can do, and I'll share one of the major reasons that went, or one of the moments that was the deciding factor on me getting it for the business, and implementing it in as a rental unit and putting it on the boats we rent out of here and use for our guiding. And that moment was, I was in a fishing tournament on the Matagami First Nations tournament, and me and my partner were fishing a school. We were catching them, and some of them were good, but most of them weren't keepers. But we were doing a good job working this decent school and finding fish that we were able to size up and gain some weight out of it. And as I said, we were doing a good job of working it and catching it. But we were doing it all on side view and just looking at undefined blips and casting for them and really hoping for the best, that everything kind of lined up, and another boat came in and they had front-facing sonar on it, and I watched them go by, and they made 4 casts. Every time it was pointing, like they were targeting specific fish. You could tell by the way they were looking at the screen and pointing their unit. And they made 4 casts, and they took out what must have been the 4 biggest fish in the school on one pass and gone. And would me and my partner have been able to catch those fish eventually if we kept working it? Absolutely. Without it, would we have ever been able to get the 4 biggest fish on 4 casts on one pass? Absolutely no way, shape, or form. And that's when I realized, in my own eyes, this really makes a difference. It's more than just getting a better view of structure. It's more than that. It is a real difference and real game changer. And it also, being a game changer, I found it changed the way I fish in a way I don't like. I do not like using front-facing sonar for my personal fishing. Because I find, even if you don't intend to, when you're using the front-facing sonar, you spend a lot of your time looking at the screen, less time with a line in the water, just jigging, feeling the water, and doing it by feel and by cadence and that. You spend a lot less time fishing with your head up, enjoying the nature that's around you, and more time just focusing on that screen, trying to get, essentially just trying to get your little blip in front of the big blip, to get the big blip and the little blip to become one blip, and then you're off to the races. And that's a simplified version of it, and I don't know, maybe controversial, but it's coming from someone whose perspective is they don't enjoy the change in fishing style that technology brought into their fishing. I don't like it. I prefer, on my own time, not using it. But the fact that I also know that I can spot the fish faster, I can see more detailed elements in the school, I know where the big fish are in the school, I can spot the big fish that are lying outside the school a lot faster. If I am taking someone out on a guided tour, or whether it be in a kayak or a boat, I want that on there, because it saves so much time, and you're able to pinpoint the fish, so you're able to actually target and follow a big fish, which makes the clients happy. And also, if I have clients that haven't used the technology before, on one of the tours in the big boat, not as much on the kayaks where I'm the only one that has it and I'm just directing people to where the school is, but if we're in the boat, the amount of clients that like just looking at the screen and seeing the technology and watching the fish swim around on the screen, I find they really appreciate that, and they really enjoy it, and that aspect of the day really improves their experience. And they don't have to notice that you're also finding the fish finder. They don't have to see all those other benefits, but they see the screen, and that improves their experience. And so basically, my experience with sonar is that it does completely change the game, but if you're using it properly, it it changes the way you fish. And some people like it, I don't. And that is a personal thing. It boils down to why you fish. But in my opinion, if you are the kind of person that just wants to get out and enjoy nature and be kind of one with the lake and that, then I don't think a front-facing sonar unit is for you. But if you're all about getting on the fish faster, targeting the big fish, then it's more in line up your alley. And I'm not gonna get into the pros and cons about what it can do to a lake and some of the controversy behind that and what it can do to a fish population. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's an effective tool. Effective tool can make effective anglers catch a lot more fish, but at the end of the day, its detriment or benefit to the water system you're on is all depending on the angler. If the angler is a highly skilled angler and they want to use it to poach a small lake for weeks out of the year, then yeah, that small lake is going to absolutely get damaged. But if they're an experienced angler that knows what they're doing and is using it to pinpoint certain fish in a school, then that can result in that angler taking less casts, catching less fish, to end up keeping the same amount of fish at the end of the day as they would have before without using the technology, but they're harming less fish in the process because they're using their casting with absolute precision to get the fish they want. So when it comes to what it can do to a lake, it's all on the user. It has nothing to do with the technology, but in the wrong hands it can be bad, in the right hands it can be good. But again, the purpose of this video is just to inform you of my experience with it, a little bit about what it can do and how it can improve your fishing game, and whether or not I think it's worth you buying it. And now that we've got through what it is and my experience with it, I'm just gonna kind of present whether you should buy it or not based on if you're a beginner angler just getting into it and you've got the enthusiasm, you just bought a boat, you want to load it up and get into fishing and that. I don't recommend you get the front-facing sonar unit right off the bat. Get used to boat control, get used to practicing the proper fishing techniques and that first. If you're just beginning, or if you're just kind of the weekend warrior, casual angler that's just going out with your buddies every once in a while, I don't think it's worth the cost. Like if you're a beginner, you might not even like it, and you're looking at least a few $1,000s to get one of these units on your boat. So it's a very costly mistake to make if you end up not liking it. And it's, even if you know you like fishing but you don't do it that often, it's a very costly piece of equipment to sit around barely being used. So I think if you're just a beginner, it's not worth the risk on the cost. And if you're a casual angler, it's not worth the money for the amount you're using it. That hopefully the buddy whose boat you're going out in has one on it so you can use it there, but I don't think it's justified to use the cost. And so the next group of people I like would be the hardcore dedicated anglers, and that's where I think it starts to get into the point where, yes, it's worth the money. But it depends, because there are dedicated anglers that go out fishing every day, but they're walking the shoreline to their favorite creek head and dropping a line in there. Yeah, they're dedicated. They probably might have a bucket ton of money invested in lures, but in no way, shape, or form is that reason to buy front-facing sonar. I would suggest that obviously you need to be fishing out of a boat and it takes up space, so hopefully a decent sized boat fit enough for the group of people that you usually go in. So it would have to be, for it to be worth your while, you got to do a lot of fishing in a boat, probably bigger bodies of water where you're having to track down the fish over large areas. The front-facing sonar will save you gas, save you time, and it'll help you find them faster. And especially if you're the kind of person that goes away on fishing trips to new lakes and that, because that technology can find the big fish faster and find the schools faster, and you're able to pinpoint things a little bit better, it helps you get your money's worth out of all the fishing trips that you make. So if you're dedicated and into traveling in that, I would absolutely suggest that it starts getting worth your while at that point in time. And if you're thinking about guiding, you want it. You absolutely want it. It's a time saver. It's a money saver. It's a screen on the boat that your clients are interested in. It's nothing but a positive thing for you if you're planning on being a guide. It's another tool in your toolbox. And if you want to be good at what you do, you got to make available all the tools you can. And so if you're thinking about getting into guiding, or not even professionally, if you just want to be the guy that loves fishing and saves gas by getting people to fill your tank up with gas and go out fishing every Friday night and every day of the weekend and every day on the weekend and sometimes during the week, then it's also worth it for you then, because you're adding to another person's experience and you're also making it more productive for you, and you're having more fun cast instead of you're having more connections with your cast than just casting. It's well worth it there. And if you're thinking about going into a tournament, you need it. You absolutely need it, unless you're entering a tournament that has a non-front facing sonar division in it, or unless unless you're going into a tournament where there's a no front facing sonar division, or unless you really don't care about getting any money back in prizes at all. You're just there for the experience and the good time, but you have absolutely no expectations of getting any money back, then you don't need it. But if you're a tournament angler, or you want to get into tournaments and you want to actually be competitive at the top level, you need it. Because your competition doesn't have one unit on their boat, they've got 3 or 4, and they're using them in different modes. They're mixing it up with different technology, and they are seeing absolutely everything in perfect clarity that is within 100 feet of their boat. Like, they know how to use it, and if you're not setting yourself up to compete with that, then you are not setting yourself up to take home any money. I don't want to burst people's bubbles there, but the chances of you being a successful tournament angler without it, at least up here on the Northern Ontario Walleye Trail, you need it. You pretty much need it. Very few can pull it off without multiple units on the boat. The perennial money winners all have multiple units on the boat. It is needed for tournament angling. But if you're on the borderline about getting it, I highly recommend finding an outfitter or someone in your area that is willing to either rent one to you or willing to give you some opportunity to use it for yourself before buying it, because it is a very costly piece of equipment to get on your boat. If you're not dedicated to the sport of angling, and if fishing isn't your number one hobby, it's probably not worth it for you at all. If you're just a casual angler, I would not even think about getting it. Again, find someone that rents them. We rent them up here in Kapuskasing. I'm sure there are other outfitters around the province that can help you out and get you onto a rental unit. And I know there are many, pretty much every guide I know out there has a unit on their boat. If you're borderline about buying it, it might even be worth the cost of a half-day tour with a guide just to give you experience on it, to give you that final yay or nay decision based on what you're experiencing with it. But it's definitely not a purchase to be taken lightly. It changes the game. It changes the way you fish. You might not even like fishing with it. That's the other thing. You might be like me and find you enjoy fishing less when you have it, because it detracts from why you fish to begin with. That's me. But it depends on your reason. It depends on how much you fish, and it depends on how much you're willing to spend to make that fishing more successful. So I'm hoping that this answers a few questions for people, particularly those like the people coming into my shop asking the questions, that it gives you a better idea of whether or not it would be worth it for you to buy it or not, or to look into it, because you don't know unless you try, and you don't know unless someone teaches you. So I'm hoping that my experience with it has taught you something and can potentially give you a helpful influence on your decision on whether you need it or not, and how you're going to go about trying it and testing it out. So I hope this was helpful, and hopefully we'll see you up in Kapuskasing for a fishing adventure. Until then, tight lines, folks.